So the tool itself can create very authentic media users with different nationalities. They are able to interact with each other, amplifying the signal and the misinformation they want to spread on behalf of the malign actors.
Welcome to the Talos Threat Perspective, a regular dive into the threats and topics that impact us all. On today's show, I'm joined by Artsiom Holub, who is one of our technical leaders on our web and DNS security team. Recently, Artsiom conducted some research into the dark side of generative AI. Now, the ethical dilemma of how do we balance pursuing technological innovations with trying to prevent misuse is actually nothing new. But there are some areas of concern right now when it comes to AI, particularly as it's in its growth period, and that's what this episode is all about. So we're going to touch on the underground forums where some of these AI tools are being advertised, and also one particular tool that is currently being used to run disinformation campaigns. We're also going to talk about deepfakes and sextortion scams and the importance of raising awareness of those scams to those who may be targeted, particularly teenagers. Let's talk about how AI tools are affecting the underground marketplaces. So these are areas where cybercriminals can go to buy and sell their tools to carry out their campaigns.
So the majority of the cases where we see AI-based tools advertised are just compromised accounts from ChatGPT or other LLMs out there. Some companies or users offer bypasses of the security controls or authentication methods, or they provide a jailbreak as a service where someone wants to use a particular tool without actually tying their identity to them, and they provide this type of the service. The only more or less real tool that I was able to find is called WormGPT, and it has the same idea as ChatGPT behind it. The only difference is that, at least according to the author who wrote it, is that it's trained more on the data applicable to the malicious purposes, and also it doesn't have any security controls, so you can generate whatever you want without worrying how it's going to be used. And that's one of the tools that is being impersonated and being sold, and also some other users are trying to steal the code or crack it. Mainly used in BEC compromise, and I believe there were quite a few cases where it was successful.
We're now going to focus on one specific tool, Murator. Now, this is an AI-enhanced piece of software that has been reported to have been used by state-sponsored Russian media for foreign manipulation purposes. So, how is this tool used to attempt to influence or manipulate its intended targets?
Yeah, this is a very recent tool that was disclosed by the law enforcement in cooperation with the private sector. So the tool itself can create very authentic media users with different nationalities. They are able to interact with each other, amplifying the signal and the misinformation they want to spread on behalf of the malign actors. Initially, we observed the use of it on the X, former Twitter, but according to the reports, they are looking into expanding the capabilities to implement them in pretty much any media sources that are out there, and they can give them that edge into spreading their misinformation.
Now, speaking of misinformation, deepfakes and voice cloning software are obviously huge areas of concern right now in this area, as they can lead to realistic fabrications that can deceive, manipulate, or actually cause harm. So where are the areas where deepfakes are actually being heavily utilized at the moment?
Yes, unfortunately, one of the most powerful Gen AI capabilities, we observed them being used in the fake both audio and video ads to sell fake supplements. They are being advertised on reputable sellers, which is misleading people, trusting that those influencers and people they see every day selling different type of the supplements, not thinking that they need to double check, and maybe that's not actually what they provide in the real life, right? So Another side of the things is amplification of the misinformation, the political campaigns. We've seen it being used in the European Union and during the presidential campaign here in the US.
Yeah, you've probably seen or heard about the deepfake video of President Zelensky calling on his soldiers to lay down their weapons. There's another example featuring President Biden, where it appeared as though he was calling for a national draft, with men and women being called upon to help fight alongside Ukrainians. Now, another aspect that I, and I know many others in this industry, believe we should be talking more about, and that is sextortion scams. Now, they are increasing at an alarming rate, and they can have devastating consequences for victims and their families.
Yeah, these are the nastiest versions of deepfakes that are out there. According to the FBI, sextortions rose at least by 20% within the last year, which is in big part is attributed to the use of the Gen AI tools. Unfortunately, the most vulnerable population that's being targeted are the teenagers. So in this day and age, it's more important than ever for parents to be educated on the topic, to let their kids know how dangerous to post something like their pictures and their identifiable information on the internet.
Victims of these crimes can suffer huge psychological impacts, including emotional trauma, anxiety, and a sense of violation that can lead to long-term mental health problems. Some victims have ended their lives. Now, the ease with which personal images can be misused also raises serious concerns about privacy in the digital age, as even those who have not produced any content can themselves still be targeted.
And I think the government finally stepped up. If I'm not mistaken, recently, overwhelmingly support was granted to the Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez law, which will help to ban use of the deepfakes and the sextortions, and also now the courts will be able to prosecute the people who create such content.
According to information posted on the US Department of Justice's website, between August and September 2024, 4 men were arrested in Delaware on federal charges related to an alleged sextortion scam that was international in nature and targeted thousands of victims across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. The conspirators allegedly posed as young females online and initiated communications with primarily young men. They then offered to provide their victims with sexual photographs, video content, and also live streaming sessions where they falsely depicted a young female when it was actually the conspirators who were actually operating the account. The conspirators then sent the victims copies of the victims' fraudulently obtained sexual content and threatened to send them to their friends, their family, their co-workers, and also publish it widely online unless they were to pay the conspirators a certain amount of money. If you, your child, or somebody that you know is being exploited by sextortion, there are places within many countries that you can go to report that. So, for example, in the US, you can report it directly to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. Let's end by talking about AI in a bit of a wider context. So, as companies are looking to increase their investments in AI, what are the implications and considerations for security?
So, the main concern is that a lot of the products are being rushed to the field without proper security controls, without proper management or any controls in place for the end user. So for any organization that want to implement such solutions in their workflows, they have to have good understanding of what they opening their gates to, how their attack surface changes with implementing these tools, right? On the other hand, if they want to use that in the development process, then they have to apply defense in depth approach. They have to design policies and make sure everyone follow these policies. They have to deal with the problems rather than trying to create AI-based projects at all. And also a lot more testing needs to be in place.
For now, the majority of dark AI exists within social engineering and misinformation campaigns. Traditional fraud and phishing kits still make up the vast majority of attacks. But as bad actors look to take advantage of growing trends and the way that people live, The focus needs to be on detection content, public education, and also proactive measures and clear regulations when it comes to protecting people's individual rights and privacy. That is all for this episode of the Talos Threat Perspective. Do subscribe to the Talos YouTube channel to be notified whenever a new episode drops. Thank you for watching and take care.